adapt, improvise, implement. As individuals, we always find it hard to adapt to change. I do. I've had to train myself over the past years to actually being flexible, to receiving the change that's coming in, understanding what's changing, focusing on where the bottlenecks or obstacles are, and actually looking at what really is the obstacle. To the second point of being adaptable, it's being aware, not being aware on a conscious level, but actually being aware on a subconscious level. And what I mean by that is you've got to be aware of the trends that are happening around in the environment. So you've got to take on board what are the trends, what is actually happening in the market within your industry. And remember, always look at it from the opposite side, which is look at it from the customer side. Look at what else is the customer looking at while they're looking at your brand and your business items, because the customer is not linear. They're not looking at something only once, and we as individuals are not linear. We are multiple processing at the same time. When we think of something, we might be thinking of X, but our brain is running A, B, C, D options parallelly. Similarly, awareness of what is happening within one's industry and within one's market, coupled with what else is going around to your target market, to your audience, to the customers you want, to the prospects you want. This is very, very critical to get and make sure your business continuity occurs. And this works two ways, internally within the business and externally with the clients and the business partners and the vendors. So let's look at how does it work internally first. The internal of a business is extremely critical. I cannot re-emphasize how important it is for a business, its brand, for looking after its internal. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're going to run a marathon and you haven't run, you haven't jogged, you haven't sprinted in the last, say, 4 to 5 months. But all of a sudden you've decided you're going to enter a marathon. Now, you have two choices. You've entered the marathon, you've paid the admission fee. You can wait out the time between now and when the marathon happens and simply land up on the day of the marathon, get into line, and you might have the best equipment and the running shoe and everything, and the gun fires and you run. Can you imagine what's going to happen to you? How far do you think you're going to be able to run that marathon? And why aren't you going to be able to run that marathon? Simply because you haven't practiced. You haven't developed stamina. So exactly in the same way, in order to run a marathon, we've got to take care of certain aspects of our physical health that builds up the strength, that builds up endurance, that builds up stamina, and allows us to arrive on the day of the marathon and run it to win it in some extent, right? Each one of us running a marathon would have a different parameter, but you'll do much better than if you've not done anything and you just land up. In the same way, the first thing that needs to be taken care of is to look at within the business, the people, the employees and the team that are involved in running the business with you, your colleagues and co-workers. How flexible are they? How aware of the trends and the market and the industry are there? That's the starting point. You start as a leader, as a business owner, as a professional leading a team. You start by looking at what is it you can do now that you've learned how to focus, how to be flexible, how to be aware. How do you transfer that individual learning to your team, to your co-worker, internally within the company, within the people? Why? Because this will again take a little bit of time, but holding people through, explaining how the flexibility occurs. You can even replay this video for them if you want. Make them aware what happens when you focus from the big picture issue or the problem all the way down to a micro bite-sized problem. Suddenly, the huge mountain disappears and becomes a little anthill. Or is it a molehill? I think it's a molehill. So when it becomes small, you'll find team members contributing from their perspective very different solutions to that little bite-sized problem. And all of a sudden, people get enthused because solutions are coming forward. And when solutions come forward, people feel good. And people start looking at flexibility in taking on board how to chunk down big issues, make it into bite size, approach workarounds, and create a solution. Flexibility enables you as a company, as a team, to adapt. In the same manner, as we go forward, you take the next step and get another group of people or the same group of people to become aware of what's happening in the market. I mean, what's happening around the business, what's happening with the business in the market, with the dealers, with the channels, with the industry, what's happening with regulatory, what are the issues at hand, are there big problems? Throw them all up as a team on a whiteboard. Chunk it down again, the same process applies. Ask for solutions and suggestions and way forwards and workarounds and see which are recommended. Draw up a short list and you'd be surprised how many brilliant ideas will come up, how many workable solutions would be provided, how many workarounds you'll have, and all of a sudden you'll see, hey, we can continue business this way. This looks to be a viable means, and then you try it and you take it forward. I'm recapping 2 points that'll help you. Number 1, flexibility. Repeat how I've explained to get the flexibility, which is to be curious, break it into small bits, into bite-sized issues, look at what solutions and workarounds can be provided by talking to your team and your people. Individually, you can ask family members, friends, anybody that this is an issue, this is the small thing, how do you think this can work? When you're curious and you ask questions, a lot more perspectives come on board. Secondly, be aware. Open yourself up to what is happening around in the industry. Go out of the little group that you have in your marketplace, within your work area, within your industry. Look at it from the person receiving your business product, receiving your brand. How are they viewing it? What's bothering them? How can you, as a brand and a business, give them something that just might help them solve or create a workaround for the issues they have? In turn, that's going to make them become aware, hey, this brand is helping me. This business is good. This person gave me this suggestion. So flexibility and being aware, taken together, those are the first 2 points of adapting to change.